Hi again, Graham here. I said in my channel intro that I was going to do a video on how I got pulled into YouTube culture and some of the people that I watch and pay attention to and enjoy. I mentioned in that video that I got into YouTube, other than as a file sharing utility, through horror movies. When the pandemic hit and I began working at home is a very different thing from working in the office. And my girlfriend was also working from home at the time, and she spends a lot of time on the phone in the course of her job. So, and our condo is pretty open. There's not a lot of walls and doors in here. It's sort of a loft style place. And so where she works is basically directly below where I'm sitting now. The other videos that I've recorded, if you look at them and you see that I'm sitting in a different place in the house, I'm basically sitting where she works, which is directly below me right now. So, in order to concentrate, because, I need to be able to focus on my work. My work is pretty detail oriented, so I have to really focus. And having her on the phone all day was kind of distracting me. So I put on headphones, and for a while I was listening to music, and that's great. I love listening to music while I work, but I was looking for something that would sort of occupy my monkey brain, the chatter sort of part of the brain while I was working, because I find that helps a lot. And in the office, that function was mainly taken up by, sort of conversations with my coworkers and stuff like that. Stuff would be happening around my cube, and that sort of thing kind of serves that function of occupying the ADD part of the brain and letting the rest of the brain actually get some work done. So anyway, I started watching movies on Netflix and Amazon on my personal computer while I was working on my work computer with headphones on, so that I wouldn't be distracted by my girlfriend's being on the phone. And just to clarify, that her being on the phone is not like the conversations with my coworkers going around my cube. She would be on the phone with multiple people, and she would basically be telling them the same thing. So I would basically hear the same conversation several times in a day. And that I found was actually more distracting than helpful. So, so again, the headphones, the movies, and I started watching horror movies because she does not like horror movies. So when we watch TV at night, when we're just kind of hanging out or whatever, we watch stuff that we both like. The horror movies would not do it for her. So I started watching them while I worked, and I caught up on some of the better ones through doing that. And maybe I'll do a video about some of the movies that I watched and which ones I really liked. But you work through a few things, you watch a few things, and you get into it. And in the horror genre, I suppose in any genre, but it sort of seems like in the horror genre, there's a lot of crap. There are movies that are not particularly scary or funny, or I kind of feel like a horror movie should be either scary or funny or both, preferably both. There are a lot of movies that you watch and you're just kind of like, okay, that was lame. But so, I started looking for recommendations and stuff. And, there are guys on YouTube who talk about that stuff. And I think two that I remember paying attention to early on were Plagued Moth and Wendigoon, because they've both got some videos about horror movies. So that stuff, I imagine, popped up in my search results, and I started watching them. And then, you start getting recommended videos. And I started sort of looking through the recommended videos, and I saw something about Chris Chan. And I remember having run across Chris Chan stuff before, but, not really paying attention to it because, crazy people on the internet, not exactly a hugely new thing. I got on the internet in the early 90s, probably 92 or 93. And even before the web, when we were all on Usenet, there were, cranks. If you really want to have a flashback, look up people like Doctress Newtopia and Ludwig Plutonium and people like that. They were sort of lolcows before lolcow was a thing. So at first, the Chris Chan stuff was sort of like, yeah, whatever. I saw a video with a fairly provocative title. I think it was something like, I'll have to look it up. Hang on a second, let me do that right now. It was called "The Most Disturbing Woman on the Internet," and the YouTuber who posted it was Temimi. And I watched that, and it was about Isabella Janke. And being somewhat new to the whole thing, I watched this thing, and I'm watching this stuff about Bella, and I'm like, holy shit. And so then I started delving into Chris Chan lore and found out about other lolcows, and but in the course of that, also discovered a whole bunch of other channels that were interesting. And then, of course, you start subscribing to a few of those channels, and you end up with a whole bunch of people that you follow, and that's kind of where I am now. Another YouTuber who I think I discovered through the horror genre that led me to a whole bunch of other things was a channel called Nightmind. Nightmind is run by a guy named, calls himself Nick Nocturne. Nick is great. I have total respect for Nick because he does not post very often, but when he does, his videos are fantastic. And what he will usually do is profile some sort of web series project or something like that, and he will really delve deep. His specialty is unfiction, which is fictional stories that are presented as if they are actually happening in real time. And this includes, stuff like web series and ARGs and stuff like that. And the great thing about Nick is that if he thinks something is good, he will break it down in a way that lets you know exactly why it's good. I don't ever wonder after watching a Nightmind video if I'm going to like something or not, because he will have given me enough info that I will get a pretty good idea from his video. The other great thing about Nick is just simply his voice. The guy has a voice that it's like olive oil. It's just, not olive oil from Popeye, like the oil, olive oil. His voice is just so smooth and mellifluous. And when he talks about stuff that he likes, you can hear the pleasure in his voice. It's really neat to be able to hear a guy who can convey that just in his tone. It's pretty amazing. It reminds me of some old school radio stuff that I used to listen to as a kid, which of course was more voice acting than narration. But what Nick does is kind of somewhere in the middle, I guess. And that's really what got me into YouTube. So through the Chris Chan stuff, I got into sort of one side of it. Through the horror stuff, I got into another side of it. And then, once the suggestions started rolling in, it just kind of exploded from there. And I'll do a couple of more videos on specific YouTubers that I enjoy. But for this first one, I think it's got to go to Temimi and Wendigoon and Plagued Moth for just kind of sucking me into YouTube. And that's where I'll leave this one for now. I will collect a bunch of stuff from the rest of the ones that I want to talk about, and we'll go from there. I've got several genres that I'm into, so that's probably several videos that I'll make. So I will see you in those. Thank you. Bye.